Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again. It's Friday, TGIF. You made it through another week, and a lot of you work hard, and Friday's here, and it makes a big difference. Today is a day you can kick back now, relax, enjoy the weekend. And if you're watching this video, relax. We got a few things to show you, something different. Today I want to start off first. I have to clear out some memory, and I have to tell you, over the last, I guess, year, I've been watching MeTV. Now, if you're not familiar with MeTV, it's a cable, on my cable TV. It's a channel, but it's out of New Jersey. It's a television station or a cable station. And they play all the shows from the 70s, 60s, 70s, and all the shows I grew up with. And I have to tell you, I am having a ball watching them shows. It's changing it's giving me such a great perspective on things, because I really, I leave those shows feeling good after I watch them, And I was looking at some of the old shows, and I was saying some of the things that changed. Obviously they call it the standards and things like that, about not letting the bad guy win and things like that. And it made a big difference in your whole attitude. When you finish watching those shows, you're like, good wins over evil, and you just feel good about things, And if you look at the dress code, it's so funny, because before 1975, the dress code was amazing. Everybody wore like a suit and a button-down shirt, and and now you go to a nice restaurant and you got some guy sitting there with a t-shirt next to you eating lunch. But it's a lot of fun to watch. But there was one thing I was watching. Highway Patrol was an old show with Broderick Crawford. Some of you old-timers might remember him. He was a great actor in the 40s and 50s, and he was a big burly guy, and he had that real big voice. And the funny thing is, he did one movie that was really great that I first saw him in, and I really liked him, was Born Yesterday with Judy Holliday. If you ever get a chance to see that movie, great. William Holden was in it too. Great movie. But Broderick Crawford was, in Highway Patrol. He was the top guy. And the funny thing is, I'm watching this show, and I was drinking my coffee, watching the show. And all of a sudden, I saw this one scene where he's in a helicopter, and he's about to shoot a tear gas projectile down in front of somebody down on the ground or whatever. And it was so funny when he put that rifle next to him to get a good stock weld. Some of you ex-servicemen or rifle guys that are into shooting know what I'm talking about. When he put that rifle next to his face, I almost spit my coffee out, and I had to take a picture. Let me see if you can figure it out. It's I'll run the little clip here, and then I'll run a still of it. And, it made me laugh. It made me laugh because, you look back, and there were some guys back then. There were some guys that were the real deal, in Hollywood. Years ago, a lot of those guys, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., all these guys that were, in Hollywood, they were athletes. Buster Crabbe, one of my favorite. But they were athletes or military heroes and things like that. They weren't just guys that played the part. They were the real deal. So you were looking at even Johnny Weissmuller. Remember Tarzan? That guy was an Olympic swimmer. I mean, they didn't break his records for countless years after he was retired. So some of these guys you look at from the old movies, you say, why'd they pick him? Well, because they were the real deal. Now today you got guys that, they haven't done anything but act. So I just thought it was interesting. So you could see why that Broderick Crawford made me almost spit my coffee out. And it was really fun. I still like him. I'm okay with that, but they should have cut that out of there because it was kind of foolish. Anyway, let's start off, first of all, with something from last week. Real quick, last week we did that Zippo lighter thing, and one of the guys was saying, because I mentioned that there were some imported ones, and he said, how do you know the difference? Let me show you some of the ways you can tell the difference between the import and the USA. Now, here are two, Zippo lighter type. This is a real Zippo on the right here. You can see it here. This one's made in Pennsylvania. The one on the left is that's a Chinese knockoff over there, but you can see like the chrome casings are both really shiny, and when you open it up, you could see one thing. You could tell if you look at the hammer here. See that the little hammer over here? If you look at this one compared to the Chinese, now that's a Chinese knockoff hammer. You see the difference? You see, and other than that, a lot of it looks the same. They're very similar as far as even how they sound. when they close, you know. But let me show you one way you could tell a big difference. Now, one way you could tell a big difference is the size, you know, because they, you know, if you could take a micrometer or something, but a lot of times you could see just that one is a little bit bigger than the other here. And that's always how you could tell a knockoff compared to the other one, you know. This one is a little bit larger, won't really fit in the pouch, but this is the type that Herman Munster used on the show. I thought it was pretty interesting. Anyway, that's one way you could tell.
Next up, a good friend of the show, Andrew Taylor, had mentioned, he says, you know, maybe you could show some of the tools that you finished already. And it's true. We have a lot of newer subscribers. And for the new subscribers here, let me tell you why I got into this whole restoring tools the way I do. Years ago, when I was a scout leader, I took the scouts down to a Long Island tool show. And not the kind of tool show I go to. This was just a demonstration out of at the old Bethpage restoration. And it was just a guy had a whole bunch of tools. I was interested, but the scouts were bored out of their mind. You know, they had nothing but like these old rusty tools and you know, they had them put out, and I was interested, but, you know, I was like, geez, you know, the kids were just not interested, you know. But the funny thing is, months later, I brought down some of my restored tools, and the kids were loving it. So I said, you know, it's all about the presentation, so to speak. So let's go check out what I'm talking about.
Now here you can see some tools. These are traditional old tools, which you would see at a collector item, whatever, and they're good tools and everything, but they just don't do it, right? Now here are just some of the restorations we did over the last, I don't know, has it been a year or so that we've been really going high polish and things like that? But you see the difference it makes. Here's that one, remember? The flip side. But you see the difference. I mean, any kid would look at this and say, wow, you know, that's something I want to look at instead of those patina-covered, you know, regular tools. Now, you might remember some of these, you know. The funny thing is a lot of these tools were wrecked. I mean, they were totally rusty when we started, but look how nice some of these came out. How you might recognize some of these restorations from older videos we did. And now you can see when you add the red and you put them together, it does make sense after a while to have that one single color. You know, I'll be honest, I've forgotten a lot of these that we did. Some of these, you know, with the candy paint, remember when we experimented with that? And some of the unusual wrenches. This one from China that we had no idea where it was from. I thought it was quality. Well, it is quality. This one here, that's just beautiful, huh? But there was some really, we had some good times, huh? A lot of fun doing these projects. Of course, the little giant, who can forget that? There's the other little giant, the literal little giant. I forget, this is all from one big drawer. Any of these projects look familiar that you remember me doing? Because I forget a lot of these. Then there was some of the homemade stuff, just a little bit of it. Then we kind of went through our psychedelic stage, remember, with the two-toners and the changing colors and that's... And obviously the 199 challenge. That was a lot of fun, right? Some of these were favorites of mine, like that windmill wrench. And remember this one, we couldn't figure out what it was. But that was this double hacksaw. Oh, man, that was boy, that's still a good video. You know, if you haven't seen that video, that video still holds up today. That double hacksaw, that's a great tool. We had a lot of fun doing that, too. Here are some pretty unusual ones. You know, a lot of times I'll bring these to the show. Just so that people can see them and stuff. I got a lot of hate for this wrench. people were upset that I drilled a hole, but I got to tell you, it's one of my favorites. And so I took a $1 wrench and made it into one of my favorites. And lastly, who could forget this? Remember, I mean, this still holds up, right? I mean, come on. That's pretty cool. Gotta admit. That's pretty cool.
Now, the funny thing is, most of my tools are packed away already, you know. They're in buckets upstairs, sealed up and wrapped in towels and things like that. So the ones that are done, waiting for this supposed move of mine, these are just ones that will lay, you know, upstairs in one of the toolboxes. Now, a couple more things. First off, we have some new mascots for the shop this year. What happens is every year for the past, I don't know, probably 50 years, I guess during the wintertime, some mice get in the house. Usually only a couple or 3 mice get in the house. But I guess years ago, Grandma used to, you know, sometimes set a trap or whatever. But she wasn't too happy about it. She didn't like killing them. So I guess what I did is every year I have a heart trap that catches them without killing them. And so I have a terrarium down here, and every year they come down. I get 2 or 3 in the house in the wintertime, and I put them in the terrarium. And then springtime, I release them up in Connecticut at my girlfriend's house. She has a big field back there, and with a lot of high grass and rocks, and man, they love it. So now they're my 3. I got 3 mascots that we have this year, and take a look at them. Now, I know you're probably thinking, why don't you just kill them or dispatch them or something like that? But I'll tell you the truth. I've been having such good karma my whole life, and I've been doing this for maybe 10 years. I've been doing this with that terrarium, and I enjoy it. These little guys, they have a blast of a time all winter, and then they go free. So no sweat off my back. Anyway, next up, sometimes I feel like a 5-year-old because I find everything interesting. I was shopping today at ShopRite, and when I came out, there was one of those Billboard trucks. I never saw one like this before. Check it out. Now, what's interesting is that screen is about 10 foot wide by 8 foot high, and it's got a great picture. It don't show up too well on the phone video, but it really does a real bright picture, and it's on 3 sides of the truck, both the left and right side, and also the back. They had the back shut off while they were in the parking lot, but I found that pretty amazing. Do they have these in your neighborhood? I wonder. Have you ever seen a Billboard truck like that before? With the LED so bright, and I thought it was pretty interesting, but then again, I find so many things interesting. Anyway, I hope you have a nice weekend, okay? Enjoy it. Take care. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you again on Monday. Bye-bye.